ज्ञानस्तिमिरमिहिरद्वीपनगरी Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachanam pangam langyate gire yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurudina Karanam Parmanandam Matavam. Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. Last week we had finished the chapter number 32 of the third canto, and the chapter was essentially a side-by-side comparison or a summary. It was already been done, a summary of the comparison between the different paths that people pursue. So Lord Kapila had talked about Sakamis and Nishkamis, the Hiranyagarbha worshippers, the impersonalist, and then he had glorified Bhakti and indicated that everything is achievable when one performs Bhakti. All the paths are ultimately meant to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he ended the chapter talking about the qualifications of one to receive knowledge. So that was the end of the 32nd chapter. So we'll begin with the 33rd chapter, Activities of Kapila. This is the last chapter in the third canto. And here we'll see that Devahuti, after hearing the teachings of Lord Kapila, she will offer wonderful prayers to him. Then Lord Kapila will give final instructions to Devahuti, and then we see Devahuti's perfection, that how she follows the instructions of Lord Kapila, her son, and achieves perfection. We'll see the activities of Lord Kapila. What does he do after leaving the ashram of his mother? And then finally, we will see the Phal Stuti, which is the benefits to those who follow these instructions, speak or hear these instructions. (331) Maitruvacha Evam Nishamya Kapilasya Vacho Janitri Sakardamasya Dayita Kila Devahutihi Virastamoha Patala Tam Abhi Pranamya Tustavatatva Vishayankita Siddhi Bhumim. Shri Maitreya said, thus Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila and the wife of Kardama Muni, became freed, full of all ignorance concerning devotional service and transcendental knowledge. She offered her obeisances unto the Lord, the author of the basic principles of the Sankhya system of philosophy, which is the background of liberation. And she satisfied him with the following verses of prayer. So where Maitreya starts this verse with Evam, thus, to indicate that he is now speaking the conclusion of the narration of Lord Kapila. So Maitreya says that Janitri is the mother of Lord Kapila, and Kardamasya Dayita, the wife of Kardam, Kila Devahuti, by the name of Devahuti, Nishmaya Kapilasya Vacha. That hearing the Vacha, the words of Kapil. What was the result? Vishrasta. That she became free of Moha Patala. Moha Patala is the ignorance concerning Bhakti, Gyan and Yoga. So what does she do? Abhipranamya. That she offers obeisances and tushtva. She satisfies Kapila. So Kapila is described as Tattva Vishaya Ankita. That he who has compiled the knowledge regarding Bhakti, Gyan and Yoga, and is described as Siddha Bhumi. That he who gives perfection to men on this earth. So Srila Prabhupada comments that the specific significance of the system of philosophy is stated herein as Siddhi Bhumi. It is the background of salvation. People who are suffering in this material world because they're conditioned by the material energy can easily get freedom from the clutches of matter by understanding the Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila. Prabhupada said that stage is called Jivan Mukti. This means that even though one stays within the material body, one is liberated. Sometimes we think liberation means giving up the body, but liberation is actually being freed from the misconceptions. That happened to Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila, and she therefore satisfied the Lord by offering her prayers. Anyone who understands the basic principle of Sankhya philosophy is elevated in devotional service and becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated even within this material world. Srila Prabhupada is equating Krishna consciousness with Jivan Mukti. They're one because essentially they are both the signs of devotion. Next verse. So we'll now see the prayers of Devahuti. Devahuti Ruvacha Thapya Jonta Shalila Shayanam Bhutendriyarthatma Mayam Vapuste Guna Pravaham Sadai Shabijam Dadayav Swayam Yajatharabja Jatha. Devahuti said, Brahma is said to be unborn because he takes birth from the lotus flower which grows from your abdomen while you lie in the ocean at the bottom of the universe. But even Brahma simply meditated upon you, whose body is the source of unlimited universes. So Devahuti, she calls Brahma as Aja Api. That Ata Aja Api, even Brahma, Jatara Jata, who is born from the lotus of your navel, Swayam Dadiya. So he could only meditate upon your form. And then she describes the form that it is lying on the ocean. So she's referring to the form of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So Devahuti begins by talking about her good fortune. That Brahma could only see you in his meditation in the Vishnu form. I'm seeing you face to face. So now where is Brahma and where am I? Right? So she's saying Brahma is the most exalted personality. But he could only see you in meditation in the form of Vishnu. But I am even more fortunate because I could see you face to face in your two-arm form. So Devotee is saying that to me it is not astonishing that you are teaching me Sankhya and delivering me from this samsara. So she is relying on the basic mercy of the Lord. She's saying that is not very astonishing because that's your nature. But what is most astonishing is that you, the Supreme Lord of unlimited universes, took birth from my abdomen, a low human being. So Prabhupada says that Devahuti said that you are the background of all material manifestation. Right? So she says, Sadashesha Bijam, that you are the cause of all universes. And therefore, you're delivering me from the clutches of Maya by explaining the Sankhya philosophy is not so astonishing. But your being born from my abdomen is certainly wonderful. Because although you are the source of all creation, you have kindly taken birth as my child. That is most astonishing. So the Lord who holds all the universes in his belly appeared within the Udara of Devahuti. That she is saying is astonishing. Verse 3. Saeva Vishwasya Bhavan Vidate Guna Pravahena Vibhakta Virya Sargadyanilo Vithabhisandhir Atmeshwarotar Sahasra Shakti. My dear Lord, although personally you have nothing to do, you have distributed your energies in the interactions of the material modes of nature. And for that reason, the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation take place. My dear Lord, you are self-determined and are the Supreme Personality of Godhead for all living entities. For them, you created this material manifestation, and although you are one, your diverse energies can act multifariously. This is inconceivable to us. So, Bhavan Vidate, she's saying that you distribute Vishwasya Sargadi Virya. So, creation, maintenance, and destruction of the Vishwa, of the universe. What else does he do? That Guna Pravahena Vibhakta. That more wonderful is that while doing all that, he is unaffected. That he is dividing them according to the gunas. Through the mode of passion he creates, through the mode of goodness he maintains, and through the mode of ignorance he destroys. And then he says, Aniha, yet you are unaffected. You have no material impact. Then Devahuti further says, Abhisandhi avitatha, that you are so powerful that all your desires are immediately fulfilled. So you don't have to endeavor for any desire. She says, you're Atma Ishvara, you're the Lord of all the jivas. Then Atarakya Sahasra Shakti, the possessor of Sahasra Shakti, unlimited, inconceivable energies. So Devahuti is indicating two things. Firstly, she is saying that it's not that the Lord has nothing to do. He has so much to do. Right? He is creating, maintaining, and destroying the universes. So he's very busy. He's saying it's not that you were bored, so you came as my child, that you have nothing to do. So you are actually very, very busy. But still you came. But then the second point she's making that it's not that you had to personally come to accomplish anything, because you accomplish everything with your energies. Right? So she says that Atarkya Sahasra Shakti, that you are the possessor of unlimited, inconceivable energies. You are Atma Ishvara. And you are Abhisandhi Avita. All you have to do is desire, and that happens. But yet you personally came. So she's saying that is only because of your mercy. No other reason. So Srila Prabhupada says the statement made in this verse by Devahuti that the absolute truth has many diverse energies, although he is personally has nothing to do, is confirmed in the Upanishads. So this is the Svetasvatara Upanishad 6.8, where it is said that Parasya Shaktir Vidheva Shruyate. That Krishna has many energies, all resting upon him. Then Prabhupada says that, further goes on to say, why is the creation made? Since the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead for all living entities. He created this material manifestation for those living entities who want to enjoy or lord it over material nature. As the Supreme Godhead, he arranges to fulfill the desires. It is confirmed also in the Vedas, Eko Bahunamyo Vidati Kama. So this is another verse from Shvetasvatara Upanishad. The previous was 6.8, and this is 6.13. This one is a fairly famous one. Nitya Nityanam Shitna Chetana Chetnanam Eko Bahunam no Yo Vidati Kama. So Prabhupada said there is no limit to the demands of the various kinds of living entities, and the Supreme One, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, alone maintains them and supplies them by his inconceivable energy. So Prabhupada is saying that this is an example of the influence of the energies of Krishna. That there are countless jivas in countless universe. And without being personally present, he is fulfilling all the desires. Eko bahunam yo vidati kama. But yet, he personally comes to Devahuti. That is his mercy. Okay, verse 4. Satvam vrato me chathare nanatha katham nyuyasyo dare tadasi Vishvam yugante vatapatra eka Shete smamaya shishurangripana. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you have taken birth from my abdomen. O my Lord, how is that possible for the Supreme One, who has in his belly all the cosmic manifestation? The answer is that it is possible. For at the end of the millennium, you lie down on a leaf of a banyan tree, and just like a small baby, you lick the toe of your lotus feet. So Devahuti starts by saying Natha. So Aishwarya, she's addressing him as, O Lord. Katham Swatvam. That how is it that you, Yasya Udare, in whose belly Vishvamasita, the entire universe resides. And then she says, Mi Chatharena, that you were held in my womb. Maya Shishu. So here Maya means merciful. It does not mean, one of the meanings of Maya is merciful, as we see in Ajo Apisan Avyayatma, Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. So it's merciful. As a merciful baby, Eka Shetasma. And then she's saying it's possible because Eka Shetasma, you lie alone on Vatapatra. So Vatapatra is banyan leaf. Angri Pana. Angri is feet, here it's toe, and Pana means tasting or sucking your toe. Yugante, at the end of the yuga. So we see that even though Devahuti has this mode of dasya, She's addressing her son as O Natha. But the mood of Vatsalya is also prominent. Her mind is again and again going back to the fact that the Lord is her son. And as a mother, her mind is also naturally attracted to the form of the Lord on the Angri, on the Vatapatre, doing Angri Pan. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he kind of breaks this verse and explains it as an interpolated conversation. So he says that Devavati could say that, how could you be held in the womb of a person like me, a mere human? You carry unlimited universes in your belly. You alone can explain this astonishing cause. And Kapila says, how can you say this to me, mother? I am your child. So Devavati says, true, you are my child. But as a child, you are the one who sleeps on a banyan leaf at the time of the destruction of the universe. So for what purpose do you appear as a child? Kapila then answers that because the people in this world are naturally attracted to children, when I appear as a child, even though they may not be attracted to God, but they are attracted to my form as a child. The devotee then says, Maya Shishu, that form of the baby is merciful. That sweet pastime suitable for a baby, sucking his toe, is suitable. So she is saying that the form of the baby is merciful because mercifully Lord is attracting even those who have no interest in him. So sometimes when people see the picture of baby Krishna, then they naturally become attracted. Similarly, when they see this picture of Krishna, this comes actually in Mahabharata, in the vision of Markandeya, lying on the Vattapatre, doing Angripan, then it's a very sweet picture. And while their mind may be attracted to the child, but because the child happens to be Krishna, then bhakti appears. So there is actually a famous Ashtakam called Bala Mukunda Ashtakam. It's by Bilvamangal Acharya, but attributed to Markandeya Rishi. There it says Bala Mukundam Manasmarami. That's the refrain. Each verse ends with Bala Mukundam Manasa Smarami. And it describes them. The first verse is Kararavinda Padaravinda Mukharavinda Vihaneshantam Vatasya Patrasya Puteshayanam Bala Mukundam Manasa Smarami. So earlier Devahuti was saying that it's not wonderful that you came to give me knowledge. It is wonderful that you came as my child. Now she is saying that it's not really wonderful that you came as my child, because that is your mercy. I have precedence. I know that you have done that in the past. She does not talk about Krishna's Balru, but she talks about Bala Mukundam. So Prabhupada writes that, therefore Devaki suggests, your lying down within the abdomen of a common woman like me is not so astonishing. You can lie down on the leaf of a banyan tree and float on the water of devastation as a small baby. Therefore, it is not very wonderful that you can lie down in the abdomen of my body. You teach us that those who are very fond of children with this material world and who therefore enter into marriage to enjoy family life with children can also have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as their child. And the most wonderful thing is that the Lord licks his toe. So does anybody know why does the Lord suck his toe? Without reading the purport of Prabhupada.
He want to experience the feet, the mercy basically. You want to experience.
Yes, it's very close, almost there, something more.
I think the Lord, he wants to experience or feel the bliss, whatever that devotees taste in worshiping his lotus feet. And I mean, there's so much said about the Lord's lotus feet all over the scripture. So the Lord wants to have that experience. I don't know how to explain it, but
No, both you and Prem Kishore Prabhu explained it very well. Yes, that's what Prabhupada says. So, like very much in the mood of Mahaprabhu. If Mahaprabhu is like, what does Radharani see in me? And he comes as Mahaprabhu. So similarly, Krishna is like, what do these devotees, they see in my lotus feet? Let me check it out. And so he sucks his lotus feet to experience the sweetness. Because Krishna, he's always the object. He's never the subject. So if somebody is loved by somebody else, that somebody will never experience what does it mean to love. He experiences what does it mean to be loved, but never what does it mean to love. And Krishna being complete, he wants all experiences. So in order to experience what the devotees experience, the Lord takes his toe and puts it in his mouth. So by evoking this pastime, Devahuti is making both points simultaneously. That you come as a child to evoke the affection of others, and you are so merciful that even you are not aware of it. The extent of your mercy, you're even not aware of it. So that is why you have come here as my child. Even the Lord Kapila does not really have any childhood pastimes, but nevertheless, he is in the Vatsalya. He's experiencing the Vatsalya Ras Bhava of his mother. Okay, verse 5. Tvam deha tantra parasmaya papanam nidesha bhajam cha vibho vibhutye yathavataras tava sukradyas tathayam apyatma pathopalabdhaye. My dear Lord, you have assumed this body in order to diminish the sinful activities of the fallen and to enrich their knowledge and devotion and liberation. Since these sinful people are dependent on your direction, by your own will, you assume incarnations as a boar and as other forms. Similarly, you have appeared in order to distribute transcendental knowledge to your dependents. So we see this confluence of Dasya and Vatsalyaras appearing in Mother Devahuti. So in the previous verses, she was glorifying her position as a mother and Lord Kapila as a child, meditating on Lord Kapila within her womb. Now she is again Vibhu, that, oh my Lord, that Tavadeha Tantra, that you became dependent on my body as a baby, Tavadeha Tantra. But now she is comparing it as Yatha Avataras Tava Shukradyas, that you, just as you appear in the world in forms like a boar. Boar came from the nostril of Brahma. So out of humility, she's not taking a very exalted position, that I'm such a great devotee that you came to experience my motherhood. She's saying, I was just there to serve you. Parasmaya Papaman. That your purpose was to destroy sin, Nidesha Bhajam. How? By giving instructions. So she says, Tatha ayamapi. So you have appeared, Atmapatha Upalabdaya, to teach the path of Gyan and Bhakti directed to yourself. So she is saying, I am an instrument, that your mercy, so far she was talking about his exclusive mercy on her. Now she's taking a step back and saying that it's your nature to be merciful. That just like you came as Varaha, you have also come as Kapila. So, and then she says that you have come for the purpose of Nidesh Bhajam, for increasing Bhakti, Gyan and Yoga. So Prabhupada says that in previous verses, the general transcendental qualification of the personality of Godhead was described. Now the specific purpose of the Lord's appearance is also described. By his different energies, he bestows different kinds of bodies upon the living entities who are conditioned by the propensity to lord it over the material nature. But in course of time, these living entities become so degraded that they need enlightenment. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, whenever there is discrepancy in the discharge of the real purpose of this material existence, the Lord appears as an incarnation. This is the Yada Yadai Dharmasya verse. Okay, verse 6. Yanna madhya shravana nukirtana yat prahavana yat smaranadapi kvachit swadopi sadhya shavanaya kalpate kutaha punaste bhagavan tu darshanat. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog-eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. So this is quite a famous verse that is often quoted to show the potency of bhakti. So Devahuti says that yat nama deya shravana anu kirtanam. So shravana anu kirtanam, hearing followed by speaking what? Namadhya, of the names of the Lord. Then yat prahavanat, offering respects to you, obeisances to you. Kvachit smaranat. The kvachit means occasionally. By occasionally remembering you. Api, even swada, chandal, a dog eater, Sadhya. Immediately, Kalpate, he becomes qualified for what? Svanaya, for performing the Soma sacrifice. So then, Devoti says, Bhagwan, O my Lord, Kuta, what to speak of Puna Bhagavan Darshanat? What to speak of the person who has darshan of him? So here she's uh, uh, counting her own good fortune. She's using what is known as Kaimutya Nyaya. So Kaimutya is Kimuta, what to speak of. So if a Chandal can be liberated, what to speak of a Brahman? Right, that is Kimuta Nyaya. That's what Devoti is using. That if by chanting the holy name of the Lord, even a Chandal becomes sanctified, then what to speak of one who sees the Lord face to face and who understands the descent of the Lord? Just as Devoti is saying that I'm fortunate enough to do so. Now, when Devoti talks about these processes, Namadaya, Shravana, Kirtana, obeisances, occasional obeisances, Kvachat Sparanat, she does not say cha. She does not say and. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says, what we understand from this is that any one of these processes is sufficient to purify even a dog eater, even a Swadaha to Svanaya, to perform sacrifice. Now, what does it mean when Devahuti says that a Chandal is now ready to perform sacrifice? Does it mean that a Chandal, he says the name and the next thing you know is that he takes a ladle, he sits in front of the Yagyasthal and starts performing sacrifice? Actually, not really. What Devahuti is talking about is the destruction of the prarabdha karma. So a person is born in a family of Chandal because he has that propensity, because of his prarabdha. So it is said a soul is attracted to the womb of a mother based on its propensity. So that's why it seeks that kind of an environment, whether it is a pious or an impious environment. So a Chandal, because of past impious activities, is attracted to that particular family, and so he takes birth. But now he becomes qualified, which means that he gets all the qualifications that are there in a Brahman who is performing this yajna. Now he himself is not ready to perform a yajna, because in order to perform a yajna, he has to know all the vidhi and the shishtachar, and that takes a long time. So in South India, even now in Sri Vaishnava temples, a priest will undergo 15 years of training, out of which 8 years is what is known as Divya Prabandham and 7 years is Archana. So before they are allowed to perform sacrifices. But even before they perform that 15 years of training, they have to have Brahmanic qualities. And after that 15 years of training, those qualities should become prominent. The Chandal may not have those qualities, may not have the training, but he develops that qualities. How does he develop the qualities? Because those prarabdha karma that were causing the presence of bad qualities are destroyed. That is the meaning of saying that a Chandal has now become qualified to perform the Soma Yajna. So one may say that how can you say that the prarabdha is destroyed if the Chandal is still alive? Because isn't the body also a symptom of prarabdha, which is true? So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that it is not necessary that the body will be destroyed with the destruction of prarabdha. And this is the same point that Srila Prabhupada makes in the previous purport when he talks about Jivan Mukta, that even in this very body, you are liberated, which means all your prarabdha has been destroyed. So he says that it's not necessary. What it means is that the person has no connection with the body. So for him, it is there or it is not there. So if you have a car, and then you have no attachment to the car in the driveway, whether it is there or not there, it is the same. It is there, you get into it, you drive, you come back. It's a convenience, but it's not there. It does not make any difference. So this is the meaning of saying that prarabdha is destroyed. The connection with the matter is destroyed. So we see this lack of interest in other great personalities like Bharat Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, that they had a body, but they had no interest in it. But they were using it for various purposes. Maharaj Janak was using it to set an example for others. Similarly, we see that Parikshit Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, they were all performing Karma Kanda. Right? Ambarish Maharaj was performing this Ekadashi fast for the welfare of the kingdom. But it is said that Ambarish Maharaj, he never even attended any yagyas himself. He was always represented by an Advaryu Brahman, by proxy priest. So because they were not connected, they did not get any pious or any sinful reactions. Because in an absolute sense, pious activities are as bad as sinful activities. They will force you to take birth. Srila Prabhupada says that one can also understand this statement from the context of the fact that Vaishnava qualities, they subsume Brahmanical qualities. So when one takes the name of the Lord, then he develops Vaishnava qualities. And those qualities contain within themselves Brahman qualities. So Prabhupada says one becomes a Brahman by Garbhoda, by other samskars, Upanayam, the Pancharatric system, then he becomes a Dvija. Now the Swata has not gone through any of that. The Chandali has not gone through any of that. But by his connection to the Lord, he develops Vaishnava qualities, which means that it can be considered that all of that has been done by him, which means that all the qualities that developed by performing the samskars have now manifested on him. Now, Sridhar Swami, Prabhupada talks about this also. Sridhar Swami mentions in this connection that anena pujatyam lakshate, that when Smrita Brahmins read this verse, what they say is that what the verse means is that by this process of different process of angas of bhakti, one gradually becomes purified. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, he uses this verse to talk about the potency of bhakti in destroying kleshas. Right? One of the first symptoms of bhakti is kleshangani, which is essentially the destruction of prarabdha karma. So there he presents something that is seemingly different. So he says, aprabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalano mukham kramena va praliyeta vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. And he says, kramaneva praliyeta, that for those who are engaged in devotional service, all sinful activities, whether fructified in stalk or in the form of a seed, kramaneva praliyete, gradually vanish. Right? So we see that in this verse, it is said, sadhya, they immediately vanish. Rupa Goswami is quoting the same verse and saying kramena, that they gradually vanish. How do we reconcile these two? So who reconciles this for us? Jiva Goswami. He comes to our rescue with an wonderful analogy. And he says that if you take a bunch of leaves of a lotus flower, so the leaves of a lotus flower are very thin, and he says you take a bunch of them and then you press them against each other. So you have 100 lotus leaves, and then you pierce them by a needle. The needle will immediately pass through the leaves. He says, however, you also know that the needle is passing one by one through each of the 100 leaves. So if you were to suddenly slow down the passage of the needle to be super, super slow, then you will see the needle going through one leaf, another leaf, another leaf. So kramena. But if you just stand back and look at it, the needle passes right through all the leaves, sadhya. Immediately it passes through all the leaves. So the analogy is talking about a matter of perspective. That for a jiva who has been conditioned for unlimited lifetimes, for him to attain liberation in one lifetime or in 100 lifetimes is sadhya. It is instantaneous. Because you have a billion lifetimes in which you were a conditioned soul, and then in 100 lifetime, you became perfected. So what is a few lifetimes in the context of unlimited lifetimes? Nothing. Just a spark in eternity. So, sadhya. But then, when you look at that spark and expand that, then one year, second year, third year, maybe one lifetime, second lifetime, third lifetime. So, kramaneva pralayate. So that's how Jiva Goswami reconciles these two perspectives. Okay, let me pause here, see if there's any discussion. Okay, so no comments, then we can move forward. Verse 7. Raho bata swapako tu gariyan yadjivagreva tate nama tubhyam te pustapaste johubu shashno rarya brahmanuchu nama grananti yete. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the family of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, one must have bathed at holy places or pilgrims, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. So this is also a famous verse. Both these verses go together generally, talking about the glories of the effect of bhakti. So here she is taking it to the next level. So she's saying, Ahobata, how astonishing that Swapako, that outcast, Jivagre, on the tip of whose tongue, Vartate Nama Tubhyam, that your name appears. So when she says on the tip of the tongue, Vishwanath Chakravarti says it means that the name does not appear in its entirety. It just appears partially. There is an indication of the name. So Vartate Nam Tubhyam, that your name is kind of appearing Jiva Agre, on the tip of the tongue. And what is the result of that? Ataha Gariyan. Such a person becomes a guru. Then one may ask that Devahuti, you keep talking about Chandals. Is this a special mercy only to Chandals? And then she says, no. Nama Grananti Yete. So anyone, not just a Svapako, but anyone, Yete, who Nama Grananti, who will chant your name, Arya, becomes respectful, Tepatyapate, completed all austerities, Juhuva, all sacrifices, Shashnu, all bathing, Brahmanuche, and is said to have studied all the Vedas. So this verse further glorifies the potency of bhakti, especially Namagranti, especially the chanting of the holy name. So in the previous verse it was mentioned that such a person becomes qualified to perform sacrifice. So one may say that while it is an exalted position, performing sacrifices, but there are many people who have that position. Many people who, because of their previous pious activities, are born as Brahmins. So Devahuti says, that is astonishing. But she says, let me tell you something even more astonishing. Ahobata. She says, what is more astonishing, that if your name just appears partially on the tip of the tongue of an outcast, does not have to be fully present, does not have to be pronounced fully. It is just present. The person becomes Gariya, that now he is qualified to deliver other persons. And not just outcast, but anyone. So the potency of bhakti is being magnified through the potency of the holy name. So one of the things a person may ask, that does that mean that if you chant the name, then it says that all the Brahmanucha, all the Vedas, so does it mean that all the Vedas will suddenly appear in your mind? Now you suddenly know all the Upanishads, the Rig Veda, the Samveda? No. What it means is that the realization a person has after studying all the Vedas, after bathing in all the holy places, after performing all the austerities, those realizations come. Because all these in themselves are means to an end. The chanting of the holy name delivers that end. Vishnu Chakravarti also makes this point that all these activities, tapas, juhuvu, shashnu, brahmanuchi, they're spoken in the past tense. So devotee is saying that he is considered to have performed them, indicating that he has no more the need to perform any of these. So it also indicates that all these activities are not a prerequisite to chanting the holy name. So when Devahuti says Nama Grananti, Grananti is in the present tense. So they chant in the present tense, and they are as good as all the activities being completed in the past. No need for them to do it. The devotees are not depending on them. So Prabhupada says that the word Grananti, which is used in this verse, means to be already established in the perfectional stage of ritualistic performance. If one is seated on the bench of a high court, it means that he has already passed all legal exams, which means that he has all the qualifications. Now, one point that is made over here is that a devotee might say that I have been chanting the holy name, but the purports of the Vedas have not manifested in my heart. I don't think I am ready to initiate other people. I don't think I have the purity of having visited all the holy places and performed all austerities. So what is missing over here? So Srila Prabhupada explains that a person who has once offenselessly chanted the holy name of the Lord becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. So this benediction is there for those who chant the name of the Lord offenselessly. It says even once. So we see that Ajamel chanted it in not as Shuddhanam, not offenselessly, but Namabhas. And even that liberated him. So this is the potency of chanting the name offenselessly. So that's what we practice. We practice chanting the name so that somehow we can chant the name even once offenselessly. So for an initiated devotee who is chanting 16 rounds, how many names of the Lord does he chant in a year? He chants 10 million names in a year. So it means that every year we have 10 million attempts to chant the name offenselessly. And we are still trying. So Prabhupada says, one should not be astonished by the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam. One should not disbelieve or think. How by chanting the holy name of the Lord can one become a holy man compared to the most elevated Brahman? So what is this? This is considered as the Namaprad. Specifically, the one who considers the name of the Lord to be an exaggeration, just to encourage or to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. So one who thinks like that is committing Namaprad. Prabhupada continues, to eradicate such doubts in the minds of unbelievers, this verse affirms that the stage of chanting the holy name of the Lord is not sudden, but that the chanters would have already performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and sacrifice, which means that they would have acquired the qualities that one acquires to perform Vedic rituals and sacrifices. Because we already determined that one does not need this prerequisites to chant the holy name. But by chanting the holy name, all these prerequisites are automatically satisfied. Prabhupada continues, it is not very astounding, for no one in this life can chant the holy name of the Lord unless he has passed all lower stages, such as performance of Vedic rituals, studying the Vedas, practicing good behaviors like the Aryans. All this must be first done. Again, means that one should have developed those qualities. Just as a student in a law class is to be understood to have already graduated from general education, anyone who is engaged in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, must have already passed all lower stages. So by this, Prabhupada means that he does not need to perform them, because you already have the realization that comes in these lower stages. By chanting the name, you have already passed those lower stages. Okay, so these two verses together, like I said, are famous in the glorification of bhakti. Okay, next verse 8. Tattvamaham brahma param pumamsham pratayak shrotasya mani sambhivabhyam swatejasa dvashta guna pravaham vande vishnum kapilam vedagarbham. I believe, my Lord, that you are Lord Vishnu himself under the name of Kapila, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. The saints and sages, being freed from all the disturbances of the senses and mind, meditate upon you. For by your mercy only, one can become free from the clutches of the three modes of material nature. At the time of dissolution, all the Vedas are sustained in you only. So this is the last verse that Devahuti speaks to Kapila. So she addresses him as Vande Kapilam Aham, that I offer respect to you, Lord Kapila, Vishnu, who is Lord Vishnu, Brahma, who is Brahman, Parampumsha, who is the Supreme Person. This is Paramatma. Dvashta Guna Pravaham, the destroyer of material existence. So this is again description of Paramatma. Swatejasa, by your appearance in this world, Vedagarbham, you who are the shelter of the Vedas, Samvibhavyam, who should be the object of meditation, Atmani, for the mind, Pratyak Shrotasi. What kind of mind? That has withdrawn from material objects. So in the past verses, Devahuti was glorifying the Lord. Now she still glorifies, but she concludes by saying that it is not possible to adequately glorify you. That you are Kapila, you are Vishnu, you are Brahman, you are Paramatma, you are the destroyer of material existence. You are Vedagarbha, the shelter of the Vedas. So she says, all that I can offer you are my obeisances. So this concludes the prayers of Devahuti. So we now move to the section of what Lord Kapila says in response. Verse 9. Maitrivacha idito bhagavan kapilakya parapuman vacha viklavayetyaha matram matravatsalaha. Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila, satisfied by the words of his mother, towards whom he was very affectionate, replied with gravity. So Maitreya Vacha. So now Maitreya is again taking control of the conversation. Bhagavan evam Kapilakya. That Lord who goes by the name Kapil, Parampuman, the Supreme Person, Idita evam, that praised by Devahuti, Vacha iti matram. So Vacha spoke in this way to his mother, Matravatsala. Matravatsala means out of affection for her as a mother. So Aviklavya. So Aviklavya, Srila Prabhupada translates as he spoke with gravity. Vishwanath Chakravarti translates it as that he spoke with a choked voice, choked with love. Prabhupada says that since the Lord is all perfect, his exhibition of affection for his mother was also complete. After hearing the words of his mother, he most respectfully, with due gravity and good manners, replied. Verse 10. Kapila vacha margena ninamataste shushubeno ditenami asthitena param kastha achirad avarotyasi. The personality of God had said, my dear mother, the path of self-realization, which I have already instructed you, is very easy. You can execute this system without difficulty. And by following it, you shall very soon be liberated, even within your present body. Right? So Kapila Vacha. So Kapil says, Mata, my dear mother, Anena Margena, that this path of Bhakti mi uditena, that I explained, Susaviyena asthinena, is very easy to perform. So referring to Bhakti Yoga, then he says, Achirat. What is the result of performing it? Very quickly, Achirat, Avarat Syasi, you will attain Param Kasta, the supreme goal of Prema. So, when Kapila is speaking about Devahuti attaining this perfection in future, one may have a doubt in one's mind that if Devahuti will attain the perfection in future, it means that she is not perfect now. So then how did she have the Lord as her son? Factually speaking, Devahuti is a Nityasiddha. And the Lord is speaking in this way to instruct the world about the potency of bhakti. So it's like a teacher calling a senior student to demonstrate something to the junior students. Sometimes the teachers do it in school, that they call a student who is from a senior class, and the student will demonstrate something to the smaller kids, and the kids learn that way. So the older kid already knows how to do it, but he or she is doing it to show the process. Devahuti is a Nityasiddha. That is why she got Kapila as her son. The Lord would not have come in the womb of a conditioned soul. But yet he is saying that you will attain the supreme goal of Prema in future to indicate the potency of the process. That if anybody does what Devahuti does, he will get the same result as Devahuti got. Prabhupada says that devotional service is so perfect that by simply following the rules and regulations and executing them under the direction of a spiritual master, one is liberated. As it is said herein, from the clutches of Maya, even in this body. It says, Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also confirms this. Iha yasya hare dasya. Regardless of wherein he is situated, anyone whose only aim is to serve the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master is called Jivan Mukta, or one who is liberated within this material body. So this is Prabhupada quoting one of the verses from the Shvetashvar Upanishad. Yasadeva parabhakte yatha deva tatha guru tasyate katita bhayartha prakashante mahatmanam. So Prabhupada uses this to also make an important point from the perspective of practicing devotees. So he's making this point that a guru is a Jivan Mukta. Even though he has externally a material body, he should not be considered to be material. And because the guru is Jivan Mukta, he has the potency to liberate his disciple. Prabhupada says sometimes doubts arise in the mind of neophytes about whether or not the spiritual master is liberated. And sometimes neophytes are doubtful about the bodily affairs of the spiritual master. Right? So they see the spiritual master getting old, having diseases, feeling heat and cold. So Prabhupada says the point of liberation, however, is not to see the bodily symptoms of the spiritual master. One has to see the spiritual symptoms of the spiritual master. Jivan Mukta means that even though one is in the material body, there are still some material necessities since the body is material. Because one is fully situated in the service of the Lord, he should be understood to be liberated. Okay, next verse 11. Shraddhat svitan matam mayam justam yad brahma vadibi yena mam abhayam yaya mrityum rachantya tadvidaha. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions as I've given them to you. You must rest assured that if you traverse this path of self-realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me, Mother. Persons who are not conversant with this method of devotional service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. So, how to follow the instructions of Lord Kapila? He says, Shraddhatsva matammaya. Having faith in my instruction. Justam. Which are perceived or followed by Brahmavadibi, by those who know the truth. So Lord Kapila is now, even though he is the supreme authority, he is now giving the example of Brahmavadibi. That just as the other liberated persons have faith in my instruction and follow, you should also. Shraddhastva matamayam. You should also have faith in my instructions. And the result is yaya, that you will attain abhayam, fearlessness, and atatvidhu. Then he says that those who do not know this, mrityum richante, they will attain death. Death in the sense that they will attain repeated death. So one should follow these instructions given by Lord Kapila with faith, and the same kind of faith that is demonstrated by those who are liberated. One who do not follow the instructions or do not have faith in the instructions, mrityum rachante. They will be caught in the cycle of death. So we see the similar mode, Krishna also in Bhagavad Gita, where he makes a point and then he says that others who know also follow. Like he says, Rishabir Baduda Agitam, that this knowledge is described by various other sages, and you may read it from there. So, Lord Kapila is essentially establishing the confluence of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. This is the last verse spoken by Lord Kapila. So, the focus now goes back to Maitreya. Maitreya Vacha Itri Pradarshaya Bhagavan Satim Tamatmano Gatim Swamatra Bharmavadinya Kapilo Numato Yayayu. Sri Maitreya said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila, after instructing his beloved mother, took permission from her and left his home, his mission having been fulfilled. So, what does Maitreya say? That iti pradarshaya, that having shown satim swamatra, that to his respected mother, tamatmana gatim, the path of the soul or the path of self-realization, Bhagwan Kapila, Lord Kapil, who is the personality of Godhead, Anumata, taking permission from his mother, Brahma Vadinya. So Brahma Vadinya is also used to qualify Devahuti. Brahma Vadinya means that who knew the truth about her son. And then Yayayu, he left. Prabhupada says that the mission of the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Kapila was to distribute the transcendental knowledge of Sankhya philosophy, which is full of devotional service. Having imparted that knowledge to his mother and through his mother to the world, Kapila Dev had no more need to stay at home. So he took permission from his mother and left. Apparently, he left home for spiritual realizations. Although he had nothing to realize spiritually, because he himself is a personality, he himself is a person to be spiritually realized. Therefore, this is an example set by the Supreme Personality of Godhead while acting like an ordinary human being so that others might learn from him. He could, of course, have stayed with his mother, but he indicated there was no need to stay with the family. It is best to remain alone as a brahmachari, sannyasi, or vanaprastha and cultivate Krishna consciousness throughout one's whole family. So Prabhupada is saying that Lord Kapila, he left to set an example of the path of renunciation. Okay. Verse 13. Sachapi tana yoktena yogadeshena yogayok tasminashram apide saraswatya samahitaha. As instructed by her son, Devahuti also began to practice Bhakti Yoga in that very ashram. She practiced Samadhi in the house of Kardam Muni, which was beautifully decorated with flowers, that it was considered the flower crown of the river Saraswati. So from verse 13 to verse 32, in 20 verses, we will see the practice of Devahuti, as a result of which she attains perfection. So how did she practice? Yoga adeshena. By following the adesh, by following the instructions of Bhakti. Tanyoktena. Who gave those instructions? Spoken by her son, Tanyoktena, Yoga Yuk. She herself absorbed in Bhakti Sasamahita. That in a trance, in Samadhi. And where was this done? Tasmin Ashrama. In that ashram, Apide, which was like a flower crown of Saraswati river. So after the departure of her son, Devahuti absorbed herself in bhakti in the ashram of Kardam Muni, as was taught to her by Lord Kapila. And Prabhupada says that because of the practice of Bhakti Yoga, the entire home became just like a flower crown on the river Saraswati. Verse 40. Abhikashana vagaha kapishan jatilan kutilalakan atmanam chogra tapasa vibharti chiranam krisham. She began to bathe 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. So, Kutila Alakan, that her locks of hair, Jatila, became matted and Kapisa and grey. Then Abhikshna Vaga, from repeated bathing of Atmanam, of her body. And Chirinam, she was clothed in rags, Vibharti Krishna, she became thin, and Ugra Tapasa, performing severe austerities. Now, if you remember, Devahuti was described in almost the same way earlier in the 3rd canto, when she was just married to Kardam Muni. At that point, she was serving her husband. And because her husband led a very austere life, she was following his path. And same thing was described at that time, that her body became thin and her skin became drab. She was wearing old clothes. Now, because of the performance of bhakti. So one may wonder that if Devahuti is performing bhakti, then why is she doing things that look like austerities? Right? It said Ugra Tapasa. What is the reason to perform Ugra Tapasa in the practice of bhakti? So Prabhupada explains, to be too fat is not very good for spiritually advanced life. Rather, one should reduce, because if one becomes fat, it is an impediment to progress in spiritual understanding. One should be very careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in a comfortable position. Voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and less sleep. These procedures for practicing, these are the procedures for practicing any kind of yoga, whether bhakti, jnana, or hatha yoga. So, it's not that bhakti is the process of overindulgence. Sometimes people say that bhakti, you do whatever you can and bhakti is okay. But when one becomes sincere in bhakti, then one needs to redirect their mind away from the body towards the spiritual conception. So at that point, one takes care of the body from the perspective of sustenance, not from the perspective of enjoyment. So what Devahuti was doing, the Ugra Tapasa, she was doing it really because she was exclusively focusing on bhakti. So because of her focus on bhakti, whatever was happening to her body, the neglect that she was naturally directing towards the body, had the appearance of severe austerities. For practicing devotees, Prabhupada says they need to adopt a modicum of these austerities. Because if one does not have vairagya, one needs to cultivate Vairagya. Just like we don't have Bhakti, but we cultivate Bhakti. So because Vairagya is a supporting Anga, we cultivate Vairagya. Just like we cultivate Gyan. Also, Gyan is also supporting Anga. Prabhupada says you should cultivate Vairagya also. Yeah. So we'll do one more verse. After that, we'll pause. Prajapate kardamasya tapo yoga vijrambitam swagrahastyam anupamyam pathyam vaimanikerapi. The home and household paraphernalia of Kardam, who was one of the Prajapatis, was developed in such a way by dint of his mystic powers of austerity and yoga that his opulence was sometimes envied by those who travel in outer space in airplanes. So, description of the opulence of the house of Kardam. Next set of verses essentially describe it. That Swagrahastyam Prajapati Kardam Vasya. At the house of Prajapati Kardam, Tapo Yoga Vijrvita, produced by the austerities of yoga, then Anaupyam. Anaupyam was incomparable, and Parthayam Vimanikir. And it was so beautiful that it was desired by the Devas. So Maitreya is describing will describe the opulence of the house of Kardam to show that what is Devahuti leaving behind to pursue bhakti. It's not that she was living in a hut with a thatched roof that was leaking, and she was hungry and she had nobody there. He'll show that how she was living in an opulence that was envied even by the demigods. But all that she gave up to pursue the path of bhakti. Okay, so we'll pause here. Any comments or realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, couple of things. One thing is Kardama Muni left home because he thought staying home he will not be able to, because Kapil Dev is already there, personality of Godhead. Yet he left home to do tapasya to attain perfection. But in case of Devahuti, he stayed, and then she also she also is aware that Kapil Dev is a personality of Godhead, and yet she carried the Vatsalya above, and still she stayed at home and remained. So how do we understand this two different mood? Like I remember you saying Rasa Bas in case of Kardama Muni. One of the reasons why he left is Rasa Bas, because on the one hand he's feeling like a father, on the other hand there is a supreme personality of God. So, but in the case of Devahuti, is it not applicable, and how do we understand that?
So to a great extent, Devahuti was acting according to the conventional adhikar, right? She was a woman. So for a woman, not recommended to take sannyas. So what does a woman do? Prabhupada comments on this later on, that when the husband leaves, the woman takes shelter of the son. Son leaves, the woman takes shelter of the personality of Godhead. So that's exactly what Devahuti did. So even though Lord Kapila left, but he never really left. So Devahuti was already at the platform that she was associating with him through his instructions. And again, this will be mentioned later, that both through dharana and dhyan, she was uninterrupted, in an uninterrupted manner, she was associated with him. Now, why did she let Lord Kapila leave? That's the desire of the Lord. It says that he fulfilled his mission, at least this part of the mission, and then he goes to fulfill the next part of his mission. And as a devotee, she is there to serve him, whichever way he wants her to serve. Earlier on, she was serving him as a mother. Then she serves him by performing this process to set an example for others. She didn't have to perform it because she was eternally liberated. But then as a service to the Lord, she performs this process so that we can see that, we can be assured of the efficacy of the process, and then we can also aspire to follow the process.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. And there's one other thing I would like to ask. I don't know whether anybody else wants to ask any question.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
We see in the case of Bharat Maharaj or other personalities, when they attain that higher levels of bhakti, they become completely disinterested and become like a renounce everything that is around them. But we also understand Yukta Vairagya as a bhakti also. So my question is, are they two different in the sense, is one better than the other, or is it equally good, or how? What is that? Or is it an advanced stage? You leave everything, even Yukta Vairagya also you leave out. So could you please elaborate on that, or even here the Mother Devahuti does the same thing. She has everything, but still she became very renounced.
Thank you. It's a very interesting question. So I can share my thoughts with you. I don't know if I have the answer to the question. One thing that we do see is that the devotees of the Lord, they act according to the convention that is prevalent at the time. So we see in the case of Bharat Maharaj, that after he had ruled for a certain time, was a grahastha, next stage was vanaprastha, and then he followed that. He followed that because it was expected for the emperor to renounce the kingdom when he reached a certain stage. And he used it essentially to perform bhakti. So at different yugas, the process of bhakti were different. And these devotees, they demonstratively followed that process in order to set an example for others. The point that you were making is that is Yukta Vairagya at some stage of advancement irrelevant? That's not my understanding. My understanding is that Yukta Vairagya is something that can be followed all the way to perfection. The reason that there is more explicit Vairagya is because of conventionality. That it's the call of the yuga, or it's the call of the particular pastime that they're playing. It's just my understanding, Prabhu. I would like to hear if anybody else has any thoughts on this. Okay. So yeah, like I said, I haven't actually had heard this question being asked or answered, now that you have said it, I'll probably be more tuned to it. I would also request the other devotees to do the same. But thank you for the wonderful question, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll pause here. Vanchakalpatarubhayaschet kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai, Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.